It's all happening February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern, the 2019 Banger Music Awards. Guest presenters, K-Rock and Sin, Sammy Schmidt, Wes Highland, Derek Shelmerdine, Kevin Holly, Alien Stone, and Motown Vinny, just to name a few. Music by The Dark Clouds, New Day Dawn, Folsom, Subway, and many others. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. For more information, go to our website, www.jalebang.com. It'll be a night to remember. February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern on these great stations. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. Be there. It'll be epic. The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Greetings, Earthlings, and alert the media. Welcome to hour 322. Pythagoras once said, all things are numbers. And well, we're going to be looking into the number 322, the number of the skull and bones.
And that is Bruce Wayne's grandfather, Mrs. Cooper?
His great-grandfather.
I understand he was tapped for skull and bones.
Tapped for it? Sir, he founded Skull and Bones.
A not-so-secret society of elite people that have attended Yale University. They perform occult rituals that hold great meaning to the participants. And for those of you who do not understand what the word occult means, it simply means hidden. It doesn't mean evil, it doesn't mean wicked, it doesn't mean magic, any of that stuff. It means hidden.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
They've had some very interesting members throughout the years. Let me give you a list of some of the most prominent members to be initiated into the Skull and Bones. We have William Howard Taft, our 27th president. Now that big boy, who's a little chunky there in the middle, he was known by his college buddies as the Big Lub and was the first ever Skull and Bonesman to ever reach the Oval Office. Mr. Taft would probably have had a pretty easy time getting in, too, because his father, the one-time Attorney General, Alphonso Taft, co-founded Skull and Bones as a Yale student in 1832. Another very prominent member of the Skull and Bones, you'll know the name, and that would be Prescott Bush. He was from the class of 1916. Now, let me tell you about this bonesman in particular.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Prescott Bush was a director and a shareholder, this bonesman, of the company that profited from their involvement with the financial backers of Nazi Germany. I don't know how many of you knew that. A firm of which Prescott Bush was the director was involved in the financial architects of Nazism. His business dealings, which continued until his company's assets were seized in 1942 under the Trade and the Enemy Act, has led more than 60 years of civil action for damages being brought in Germany against the Bush family by 2 slave laborers at Auschwitz. The evidence has also prompted one former U.S. Nazi war criminal prosecutor to argue that the late senator's actions should have been grounds for prosecution for giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Now, this is Prescott Bush's company. Let's continue. Even after America had entered the war and when there was already significant information about the Nazis' plans and policies, he worked for and profited from companies closely involved with the very German businesses that financed Hitler's rise to power. It has also been suggested that the money he made from these dealings helped establish the Bush family fortune to set up its political dynasty. While there is no suggestion that Prescott Bush was sympathetic to the Nazi cause publicly, the documents reveal that the firm he worked for, Brown Brothers Harriman, acted as a U.S. base for the German industrialist Fritz Thyssen, who helped finance Hitler in the 1930s, an Austrian that became the leader of Germany. Bush was the director of the New York-based Union Bank Corporation that represented Thyssen's U.S. interest, and he continued to work for the bank after America entered the war. Bush was also on the board of at least one of the companies that formed part of a multinational network of front companies to allow Thyssen to move assets around the world. Because Bush wasn't sympathetic at all to Nazism, not at all. Even though he helped set up a bunch of front companies to help that guy make some money, so he could make some money. War profiteering. More tantalizing are the Bush's links to the Consolidated Silesian Steel Company, based in mineral-rich Silesia on the German-Polish border. Interesting. Are you learning something, ladies and gentlemen? Did you know this history? Let's continue. Now, during the war, the company made use of Nazi slave labor from the concentration camps, including Auschwitz. The Harriman papers in the Library of Congress show that Prescott Bush was a director and shareholder of a number of companies involved with Thyssen. Second set of papers, which are in the National Archives, and hopefully Sandy Burglar didn't steal those, are contained in vesting order number 248, which records the seizure of the company's assets. What these files show is that on October 20th, 1942, the alien property custodian seized the assets of the UBC, of which Prescott Bush was the director. Now, having gone through the books of the bank, further seizures were made against 2 affiliates, the Holland American Trading Corporation and the Seamless Steel Equipment Corporation. By November, the Silesian American Company, another of Prescott Bush's ventures, also had been seized. The third set of documents, also at the National Archives, are contained in the files on I.G. Farben, who was prosecuted for war crimes. A report issued by the Office of Alien Property Custodian in 1942 stated of the companies that since 1939, these steel and mining properties have been in possession of and have been operating by the German government and have undoubtedly been of considerable assistance to that country's war effort. And that's just a little bit of the history of Mr. Prescott Bush, the skull and bonesman, who happened to be a senator, who gained great financial wealth from having these connections and ties that profited off the Nazi war machine. Now another famous bonesman you might know, and that's Robert Levett. He was from the class of 1918. Harry Truman's Secretary of War and the man whom many have called the architect of the Cold War. Man, these bonesmen just get involved in all kinds of stuff that really isn't that great for America, isn't it? Now, he was the consummate bonesman insider. Along with sharing a membership timeline with Prescott Bush, Levett was also friendly with fellow bonesman Harry Holster Bundy, who served with Levett in Truman's war cabinet and was the father of future bonesman McGeorge Bundy. Now, McGeorge Bundy, class of 1947, that bonesman, before becoming one of JFK's wise men, and we'll hear from President JFK a little later, Bundy was another bonesman with a long family lineage of getting tapped for the society. Because the Society of Skull and Bones, that 322, we'll get into the numerology of it a little later on. But that 322 Skull and Bones Society likes to keep things in the family because it's really the genealogy that they're looking for, the clique, the people that are the elite of the elite. You and I, we could never, even if we went to Yale, even if we were lucky to go to Yale, you and I who have no family lineage probably wouldn't stand a chance of getting into that Skull and Bones to find out anything about what their secret rituals are. Now another super famous bonesman that we all know about was the second ever Skull and Bonesman to be elected to president. And that's George Herbert Walker Bush.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
He was from the class of 1948. President 41 was also a fighter pilot in World War II, an ambassador to Red China, and the director of the CIA. Now, before I go on, I just want you to understand, to grasp the concept that these people have been in a great deal of organizations, which means they had influence over these organizations. Another big famous bonesman you might know, John F. Kerry, class of 1966.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions.
Was only a college junior when he was tapped as a bonesman after a childhood spent abroad with his diplomatic father. Kerry's period of membership as an on-campus bonesman just missed intersecting with the man he would challenge for the presidency in 2004, and that was George W. Bush, the nuclear. He's from the class of 1968.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
George W. ended up as the third bonesman to occupy the White House. Now, Austin Goldsby is a more recent graduate and Bonesman. He comes from the class of 1991. Goonsby represented the newest generation of bonesmen on this list. A Texas-born economist, was presumably tapped in 1989 while studying for his BA in economics and performing with the Yale improv troupe Just Add Water. At 41, he was one of the youngest chairmen of the Council of Economic Advisory in the history of the White House. That was during Obama. A building that has been staffed and led by more than a few members of the society, and one can assume will be for many years to come. Percy Rockefeller, class of 1900, white shoe New Yorker, oil man, gun dealer, and of course, he was a Rockefeller, and we'll get into the Rockefellers a little later on. But we've got to take that first time out, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Plenty more coming your way. If you didn't know this stuff, you're going to know it now. We'll be right back. Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass. It's all happening February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. Guest presenters K-Rock and Sin, Sammy Schmidt, Wes Highland, Derek Shelmerdine, Kevin Holly, Alien Stone, and Motown Vinny, just to name a few. Music by The Dark Clouds, New Day Dog, Folsom, Subway, and many others. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. For more information, go to our website, www.jlebang.com. It'll be a night to remember. February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern on these great stations. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. Be there. It'll be epic.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
You feel smart. Oh, I feel smart. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to them. Who's them? The people on the radio. Oh, now shut up. We're going back to John. Now let's look into the skull and crossbones. You know that little poison sign? Why would they have that as their symbol? And what other organizations throughout history have used that symbol? Many researchers of Templar and Masonic history have pointed out the links between this symbol and one used by the Knights Templars on their ships. Now I want you to think carefully, ladies and gentlemen, because history is going to be given to you right here, and you've been told something a little different. If we take into account the fact that the Templars had the world's biggest fleet in the 13th century, and that they were well known for acts that we would call today piracy. Now, the Knights of Malta were also known for their piracy, and we find that these Maltese knights were in fact the very same as the Templars, having been formed or joined by a remnant of the dissolved Templars. And that goes way back to Philip le Bel when he attempted to join the Knights Templar after having a massive feud with Pope Boniface. The Templars blackballed him. And what that meant was that they had a choice. They had two balls in their hand, and they would throw it in a little container. Maybe it was a sack. Maybe it was a box. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But we know he was blackballed by the Templar. And he decided to send his magistrates, his police force, whatever they called them back then, to round up and kill the Templars. That happened October 13th on a Friday. And any Templars that weren't captured, they fled France. And after they fled France, they dissolved the Templars. Maybe they became the Knights of Malta. Maybe with all those ships with the skull and crossbones that they had way back when, and all the loot that they got from their so-called piracy. Now, these Templars and Knights of Malta were accused on several occasions of piracy, and henceforth we have tales of piracy on the high seas. Jack Sparrow, anyone?
You cheated. Pirate.
There is a direct link, therefore, between the creation or use of the skull and crossbones by the Knights Templar and our modern day idea of it being the symbol of piracy.
It is my intention to commandeer one of these ships, pick up a crew and Tortuga, raid, pillage, plunder, and otherwise pilfer my Weasley black guts out.
Now we have to ask ourselves, why an elite group of Yalesmen called the Skull and Bones, why did they take on the same symbolism as the pirates, as the Knights Templar?
A distant cousin of my aunt's nephew, twice removed.
Now, a good book to read on all this, I'll give you two. First one is Born in Blood by John J. Robinson, The Lost Secrets of Freemasonry. Because Freemasonry is also tied to the Knights Templar. So the Skull and Bones, who carry the same symbol as the pirates that were previously the Knights Templar, who were prior to that the Freemasons, and so on, and so on, and so on. And the second book that I think you should check out that would give you a little more insight, Behold a Pale Horse by Mr. Milton William Cooper. Take the time, read those books, and you'll see that the Knights Templar never died off. They just changed their names to the Pirates. And is it possible that the pirates of yesteryear changed their name once again, and the Skull and Bones Secret Society, the Order 322?
And that is Bruce Wayne's grandfather, Mrs. Cooper?
His great-grandfather.
I understand he was tapped for Skull and Bones.
Tapped for it? Sir, he founded Skull and Bones.
As Pythagoras stated, all things are number. Pythagoras was an initiate. And these teachings just don't go away. Religion just doesn't go away. It becomes occult, hidden, until it needs to come out. Now, as I continue, I'd like to play you a montage of Skull and Bonesmen in their own words.
The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
on.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322. You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions.
And this present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
One world government, new world order. In control of the media? Would it be a one world government in control of the press and Hollywood? Would it be control of wars and when that would happen? Could that be all part of the one world government that they're talking about? 9/11, Libya, mass immigration, all part of the plot? Could that be? We're going to take a quick break, folks. When we get back, we're going to go way back. We're going to go back to the 18th century. and talk about another person and group that may have deep connections to the Order 322, the Skull and Bone Society. Be right back.
Don't move a muscle. The John Lebang Show is right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes! Does your house need a paint job, but you don't want to do it? Then call Tom at Quality One Painting. He can handle all of your interior and exterior painting needs. He gives free estimates and senior discounts. Call Tom at Quality One. 313-982-2986. That's 313-982-2986. Quality One Painting.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Now here's John.
All right, folks, now let's go back to the 18th century, and I want to talk about this gentleman called Adam Weishaupt. Now, he was born a Jew. He converted to Catholicism. He became a priest, a Jesuit priest, very much like the Pope over there. And then he defected to Zionism in 1770. Now, on May 1st, 1776, May Day, May 1st, keep that in mind so you understand these things. May 1st, May Day, the Illuminati was formed. And in their own words, their plan required the destruction of all existing governments and religions. The plan was to divide and conquer, taking different groups of people and pinning them against each other on ever-growing political, social, and economic issues. Now, doesn't that sound like what is going on today? Now, the House of Rothschild, at least one member that we know publicly, has been part of the Skull and Bones. But we know the Rockefellers throughout history have been a very prominent family. They funded both sides of the French Revolution and every war since. They were behind the Council on Foreign Relations. This is a private organization that helps dictate the policies of the United States. We know prominent members of the Rothschilds have been Masons. We know they've also been prominent in the building of the British Institute for Foreign Affairs, the United Kingdom's version of the Council on Foreign Relations. They've set up many, many front organizations controlled by themselves and bankers, they were also fundamental in the creation of the United Nations. But now I'd like to go back to the Napoleonic Wars, if I may. The Rothschilds funded both sides of that war. They funded Napoleon, and another branch of the Rothschild Empire funded Britain, Germany, and other nations. They sent word back to England that Napoleon had won the war, which caused a major financial panic, and guess who swooped in to buy up the losses at pennies on the dollar? Now, by the time the government of England found out, it was all fake news. It was a lie. It was too late. They were indebted through their war debt, and the taxes of the English people have been going to the debt ever since. Now, Nathan Rothschild, he has one major famous quote that all should take heed to what he says here. He says, after all this had happened, after the Rothschilds swooped in and took over the financial system of England, he said this: "It's the best business I've ever done. If I control a nation's wealth, I care not who makes the laws." Now, they've been pushing wars ever since. And all nations are becoming so weary of this. Back in the Congress of Vienna, they tried to put together the League of Nations, the first attempt. The Rothschilds own so much that too many people are in debt to them. They come in, very much like George Soros. They come in, somehow weaken a country financially, buy it up, and then the country is indebted to them for who knows how long. Now, the Tsar of Russia tried to expose this plot, but in 1917, they destroyed the Tsar and his family. Now, the goal of the Illuminati, the goal of the Rothschilds, the Skull and Bones, it doesn't matter what you call them. It's a long view goal. They have an enterprise that they would like to accomplish in their lifespan, but as long as their lineage, because their lineage is always the provided for, protected, as long as their lineage continues to thrive and be the head of the world, that's good enough for them. Because these people know that things don't change overnight. You can't just take over the world in one shot, because that would freak the hell out of a lot of people. Now, just to tie in a nice little bow here, because I've given you a lot of information tonight, and some of you are just probably going, oh, I can't keep up. Just a little more before we kind of wrap this up. Here's a little clip from Batman. Oh, yes, we're going to tie in Batman to the Skull and Bones. This comes from the TV episode number 33. 33 being the highest degree in Freemasonry. The title of the episode, Fine Finny Friends. Did you catch that? Do you see what I've seen? Episode 33, Fine Finny Friends. What letter of the alphabet is F? May I ask you? Fine Finny Friends. Here's the clip.
That is Bruce Wayne's grandfather, Mrs. Cooper?
His great-grandfather.
I understand he was tapped for Skull and Bones.
Tapped for it? Sir, he founded Skull and Bones.
Now, I brought that to everybody's attention way back when the Dark Knight shooting came out and the Sandy Hook shooting came out. And no, I'm not like Alex Jones, and I do not believe that it was a hoax. Sandy Hook really happened. But was it just the act of one man, one disturbed young man? Well, if you took the opportunity to watch the movie The Dark Knight, remember they had that massive shooting that at opening night way back when? James Holmes fired away. In that movie, for some very odd reason, I don't know why it was there was a map. And Commissioner Gordon puts his finger on the map. And right by his finger is the word Sandy Hook. Now, if Bruce Wayne's great-grandfather founded the Skull and Bones, according to Batman, episode number 33, Fine Finny Friends.
That is Bruce Wayne's grandfather, Mrs. Cooper?
His great-grandfather.
I understand he was tapped for Skull and Bones.
Tapped for it? Sir, he founded Skull and Bones.
And the Skull and Bones go way back, way back, through different names, of course, but they go way back and can be linked all the way back to Freemasonry. Freemasonry's highest degree is 33rd. There may be degrees higher, but it's publicly 33 is going behind the veil. pretty much God then. One has to wonder if these things aren't just all coincidence or if there is a message being told to you in these movies. Now, I did a video way back when on the movies, and I showed you that the Dark Knight shooting not only predicted the number of kids that would be killed and the date, as far as the month is concerned, but Commissioner Gordon, the police officer, pointed clear as day to the map, the part that said Sandy Hook. Now, I don't know what all that means. You can make your own conclusions. I'm not telling you what to believe. You can go check all this out yourself. I encourage you to do that. It takes many hours of research, but if you spend the time educating yourself, you'll find that everything I've told you is true. And that the links between all the secret societies that I've brought up today are there. And it's one secret society that moves through others, really. As we've seen with the Skull and Bones. George H.W. Bush was in the CIA. Then he became president. Prescott Bush was a senator. They're all over. John Kerry is senator. Almost president. Could have been president, and he was challenging his Bonesman buddy. I was going to say ally. But these men do things in secret. Let's play you the audio again.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
So you got to wonder. You got to wonder when all these things coincidentally match, if it's really not a coincidence. With the Sandy Hook shooting, it happened. But was it Adam Lanza who did it himself? Or through operations such as MK Ultra and the like? Which is a CIA-based program, once run by George H.W. Bush, Skull and Bonesmen that used to be the pirates that were the Knights Templar and the Freemasons, all tied into Batman, oddly. You have to wonder if all the coincidences aren't really coincidences, and it was all made to happen.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
As a problem, so that you'd get a reaction, and they could offer a solution. We've got to take a break, folks. When we come back, we're going to hear from a couple former presidents. Be right back.
And that is Bruce Wayne's grandfather, Mrs. Cooper?
His great-grandfather.
I understand he was tapped for Skull and Bones.
Tapped for it? Sir, he founded Skull and Bones.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back.
After this.
That's guaranteed. Yes. It's all happening February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. Guest presenters: K-Rock and Sin, Sammy Schmidt, Wes Highland, Derek Shelmerdine, Kevin Holly, Alien Stone, and Motown Vinny, just to name a few. Music by The Dark Clouds, New Day Dawn, Folsom, Subway, and many others. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. For more information, go to our website, www.jlebang.com. It'll be a night to remember. February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern on these great stations. The 2019 Banger Music Awards. Be there. It'll be epic.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
And it's so much fun. Why you keep talking? Oh, am I not supposed to? No. Oh, back to John.
All right, folks, welcome back. Hope you learned a little bit this evening in this final segment as we're just trying to tie things together. I was going to play a few tidbits, sound bites, parts of speeches from 3 former presidents. The first one is going to be a little minute or 2 minute from Franklin D. Roosevelt about Adolf Hitler and his plan.
Hitler has often protested that his plans for conquest do not extend across the Atlantic Ocean, but his submarines and raiders prove otherwise. And so does the entire design of his new world order. For example, I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the new world order. It is a map of South America and a part of Central America, as Hitler proposes to reorganize it. Today in this area, there are 14 separate countries. But the geographical experts in Berlin have ruthlessly obliterated all existing boundary lines. They have divided South America into 5 vassal states, bringing the whole continent under their domination. And they have also so arranged it that the territory of one of these new puppet states includes the Republic of Panama and our great lifeline, the Panama Canal. That is his plan. It will never go into effect.
Now, in this next clip, ladies and gentlemen, President Eisenhower gave a farewell address to the nation where he was discussing his relations with Congress, which I think Congress should listen to how President Eisenhower described his relations with Congress and how Congress is acting towards our current president. And I think Congress could learn a lot from this speech. And I think it ties in, it shows the difference between today's politics and politics of the past. He also, and this is going to be a little longer one, ladies and gentlemen, so please bear with me. He also gives a warning to the American people. And when you look back on it, ask yourself, did the American people listen?
3 days from now, after half a century in the service of our country, I shall lay down the responsibilities of office as, in traditional and solemn ceremony, the authority of the presidency is vested in my successor. This evening, I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell, and to share a few final thoughts with you, my countrymen. Like every other citizen, I wish the new president and all who will labor with him Godspeed. I pray that the coming years will be blessed with peace and prosperity for all. Our people expect their president and the Congress to find essential agreement on issues of great moment, the wise resolution of which will better shape the future of the nation. My own relations with the Congress, which began on a remote and tenuous basis when, long ago, a member of the Senate appointed me to West Point, have since ranged to the intimate during the war and immediate post-war period, and finally to the mutually interdependent during these past 8 years. In this final relationship, the Congress and the administration have, on most vital issues, cooperated well. to serve the nation good rather than mere partisanship, and so have assured that the business of the nation should go forward. So my official relationship with the Congress ends in a feeling, on my part, of gratitude that we have been able to do so much together. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. 3 of these involved our own country. Despite these holocausts, America is today the strongest, the most influential, and most productive nation in the world. Understandably proud of this preeminence, we yet realize that America's leadership and prestige depend not merely upon our unmatched material progress, riches, and military strength, but on how we use our power in the interest of world peace and human betterment. Throughout America's adventure in free government, our basic purposes have been to keep the peace, to foster progress in human achievement, and to enhance liberty, dignity, and integrity among peoples and among nations. To strive for less would be unworthy of a free and religious people. Any failure traceable to arrogance or our lack of comprehension or readiness to sacrifice would inflict upon us grievous hurt, both at home and abroad. Progress toward these noble goals is persistently threatened by the conflict now engulfing the world. It commands our whole attention, absorbs our very beings. We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method. Unhappily, the danger it poses promises to be of indefinite duration. To meet it successfully, there is call for not so much the emotional and transitory sacrifices of crisis, but rather those which enable us to carry forward steadily, surely, and without complaint, the burdens of a prolonged and complex struggle with liberty the stake. Only thus shall we remain, despite every provocation, on our charted course toward permanent peace and human betterment. Crises there will continue to be. In meeting them, whether foreign or domestic, great or small, there is a recurring temptation to feel that some spectacular and costly action could become the miraculous solution to all current difficulties. A huge increase in newer elements of our defenses, development of unrealistic programs to cure every ill in agriculture, a dramatic expansion in basic and applied research. These and many other possibilities, each possibly promising in itself, may be suggested as the only way to the road we wish to travel. But each proposal must be weighed in the light of a broader consideration, the need to maintain balance in and among national programs. Balance between the private and the public economy. Balance between the cost and hoped for advantages. Balance between the clearly necessary and the comfortably desirable. Balance between our essential requirements as a nation and the duties imposed by the nation upon the individual. Balance between actions of the moment and the national welfare of the future. Good judgment seeks balance in progress. Lack of it eventually finds imbalance and frustration. The record of many decades stands as proof that our people and their government have, in the main, understood these truths and have responded to them well in the face of threat and stress. But threats, new in kind or degree, constantly arise. Of these I mention 2 only. A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
And in our final clip here, and this is about a 4-minute clip or so, we move to the president right after Mr. Eisenhower, and that was John F. Kennedy. JFK, the man who was shot in Dallas, in Daley Plaza. He had a speech that many interpreted as a speech to the media about communism. Some people interpret it as he was talking about secret societies. But if we go back far enough in history to, let's say, the Bolshevik Revolution, which was inspired by a lady named Blavatsky, one could say that communism and secret societies have a lot in common. Here's President JFK in 1961.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No secret is revealed. The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some, but the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. There is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
I know I played a lot of clips this evening, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes you have to use people's own words to get the point across more precise, more concise, and it helps you, the listener, understand that I'm not making things up. People aren't making things up. These people say things in their own words, and if you read into those words, you will see that, hey, they're telling you stuff. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for tuning in this week. We're going to be having another Best of Banger next week, followed by the second hour is going to be... I don't have that in front of me right now to tell you, but it's going to be another banger verse something or other. We might actually be beginning on the Invaders from Alien X. That might be the part one you'll hear in the second hour. You'll also, in the Banger Music Hour, be hearing the nominations for the 2019 Banger Music Awards, which is just a few weeks away, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't been paying attention, I've played the commercial so many times tonight, you're probably sick of it, but it's a big deal. It's one of the big reasons why our focus is elsewhere right now, and that and the fact that the studio is just not quite ready. But that's so close, and we had a great time. Everybody involved, it's been a tremendous success, and we haven't even had the event yet, which is crazy. So that'll be happening on the 1st. Please go to my website. That's www.jailbang.com, because I can't say the words. Tongue all tied around my throat here. I'm caught on my tooth or something. Can't get it right. Don't want to say caught in my throat on the radio. Sounds kind of weird. Anyways, I really appreciate y'all stopping in. We're going to be back to normal in February. At least more regular broadcasts. We'll be talking about all kinds of stuff. I guess I could have talked about the government shutdown. Since we have a minute or so, that's what I think of the government shutdown. It's a bunch of blah, blah. Until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, this is John Lebang signing off from the Banger Studios.
Have liftoff.
again next week. Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance